Good morning and welcome to our Hall of Fame induction ceremonies for 2016.
To all of the honorees, it's as simple as this: you deserve it. I'm going to introduce Chad Starks. Coach Nash is going to introduce Pat Illig. Both of them tremendous players, tremendous young men, and guys that every time I see him, it puts a smile on my heart. He was an All-American and all that stuff. Just read it, okay? But I'm going to tell you this. Back in the day, he was a guy that wasn't quite sure of Wofford. He wasn't quite sure of Coach Ayers. Matter of fact, he wasn't quite sure of anybody, because he was a guy that had come through a difficult situation, and he was very untrusting. As the years went on, things got better, barriers got broke down, and he excelled on and off the field. The big thing about him is that he is the real deal. He is the real deal. And he's a guy that's all about others. He used to be all about Chad, but now it's all about others.
They took a chance on a kid that they never even spoke to when they were recruiting him. I wasn't at home. I grew up in the streets of Columbia, had a strong family unit, but didn't always appreciate what I had. I made some decisions in my life that made the road a little tough. But I'm fortunate that somebody believed in me and saw something in me that I didn't know that I had. And that was Coach Ayers. That was Coach Gary Zingler, my defensive back coach. That was Coach Nate Woody. And I'm fortunate to stand here today to represent the class of '94, but let alone the years of '90 to '94 as a representative of what I would call the best 4 years of football at Wofford College. Got an older brother who was in law school, who came on every recruiting trip with me, who I owe gave me my first book. He told me that the situation in front of me didn't have to be the situation that I lived in. He told me that there was an opportunity here at Wofford College because when he was in law school, majority of his classmates were not from University of South Carolina. They went to Wofford. He didn't talk to me about going pro. He talked about getting a quality education and becoming a productive citizen. Wofford College isn't just about those interceptions or the opportunity to play against the Citadel. It's not about the opportunities that Coach spoke of. It's about family. I got a new family when I came here. I created a new family when I got here. And that family is the best thing that ever happened to Chad Starks.
Pleasure to be here today. We've got a fine young man that we're inducting into our Hall of Fame, a guy that we can all be proud of. As if Chad was not the biggest guy, Pat was probably one of the biggest guys we had. Pat showed up on campus. He was a guy who loved tight cotton shorts, tank tops, and Pat had tennis shoes that were every color of the rainbow, right? If you get a chance, check his feet out. They're size 18, and Pat was at the mercy of whatever any member of his family could find in a size 18. Pat was a great player here. He embodied everything that it takes to be a successful Terrier. He was tough, extremely hardworking, always wanted to do things the right way. Strive for perfection. He shortened up those steps and learned to play low. Always would do his best and try hard.
So I just want to, there's people I just need to thank. My coaches. I don't think I really loved football until I came here. And they've really helped me out with how to carry myself professionally. So thank you. And my teammates, offensive linemen don't really get individual awards without a strong supporting, or not supporting, the rest of the offensive linemen and the rest of the team. So thank you to my teammates and my wife, who I think loves Wofford more than just about anyone I've ever met. I was close to quitting football, and I actually applied as a student to Penn State. And my dad never gave up, and he kept in close contact with a guy named Joe Butler in Pennsylvania, who ran an all-star camp for high school players. And apparently Wofford didn't get enough offensive linemen late in the process, so they were desperately reaching out to Pittsburgh. So next thing I know, I was on a plane to Spartanburg, beautiful, lovely Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I signed on the trip. I loved everything about it. So thank you, Dad. Everything great about my life has hinged on me coming to Wofford. So thank you, guys, and thank you, everybody. This is a wonderful honor.
I would first like to recognize two great people, Martha and Wes Johnson, who entrusted us with their child, Tim. Thank goodness they did. Thank you both. I do have the opportunity to recognize two great ones, and it would be hard for me to talk about either of them without first talking about them together. Noah was a better player because of Tim. Tim became a great player because of his counterpart, Noah Dahlman. Now, don't get me wrong, Tim Johnson would have become a special player here, but those two together comprise the greatest front line in Wofford history. But with them and other great teammates, they made it very clear to me we were onto something that could be potentially very special. But make no mistake, they were the catalyst and took us all on the greatest ride, the first ride, and oh, what a time we had. I think of Tim Johnson from Memphis, Tennessee, Kevin Giltner from Tennessee. I think of Noah Dahlman and Jamar Diggs, Cameron Rundles from the great state of Minnesota, Brad Losing, Terry Martin from Cincinnati. Number 41 had a big personality, self-assured, one of the toughest people I've had the privilege to coach. He was one of the finest defenders I've ever had. Still to this day, he's our chief demonstrator, and I'm not sure when you're in my position that it's great that one of your assistant coaches is your best defender. But still to this day, Tim Johnson is my best defender. And every day I will call on him to show one of the younger people how we do things. You were awesome, and I appreciate you.
This is very, very cool. Very, very humbling thing, a great honor for all of us up here. I can still remember getting the call from Richard Johnson. I was at dinner with my fiance, who looks great today. And my first reaction to listening to Richard Johnson was relief. And relief because I knew the community had finally forgotten about my free throw shooting. So also, I have to thank Coach Dustin Kearns. A lot of you guys know, some of you don't. He's responsible for recruiting 2 Hall of Famers going in today. I think that's special. And I also think that Dustin Kearns is probably responsible for recruiting a couple other guys that haven't gone to the Hall of Fame yet, but that will soon. So what he's been to Wofford is extraordinary, and I've been lucky to learn from him, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to work together on and off throughout our careers. So I think that's awesome. Of course, my dad, who's here today, and since I can remember, he's always said the team. You know, it's about the team. It's not about you. It's about us and we. And of course, that message was continued when I got here with Coach Young. But you know, I appreciate that. You know, and that coming from a guy who grew up in Durham, North Carolina, was a terrific player at North Carolina Central. But somehow he got the message from his father and transferred it on to me. It's about the team, which makes this whole situation a little uncomfortable, because I don't want to get up here and make it about me, because it's not about me. As Coach Young said, there's so many great players on that team, and we were nothing without each other. I will use this time the best teammate I've ever had, my mother. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, she was a social worker for 30 years, and during her time as a social worker, she come across a lot of families, some broken, some needed a little help, and she'd go out of her way and internalize all these families, put her children where they need to be successful. Some days she'd come home and she'd cry. She felt it. She felt it, and she cared. And I used to ask myself, this lady, smartest lady I know, degrees out the wazoo, master's degrees, and she's doing this emotionally treacherous job, in my opinion, because I had to see my mama cry, for $40,000 a year. But again, you start to see God's plan through people like her. So my brother and I were two of these lost children. And at some point during her tenure as a social worker, she developed an affinity for lost children. And it wasn't enough to just put these children in homes. She decided to take two in. In this moment, it's yours. And I thank you for a shot to win, a shot to be here, a shot, and thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I look back there at Chad Starks. I see Pat up here and Tim Johnson, Noah Dahlman. I think of Noah. You know, the thing is recruiting stuff, you know, how do they move, what you can't do. I couldn't open Tim Johnson up and see the size of his heart. He couldn't do that. Coach Ayers couldn't do that with Patrick. He couldn't do it with Chad. But inside all these men are enormous hearts. I will never forget his dad, Nathan, a wonderful man, explaining to me during the recruiting process, now listen, if he comes to Wofford, he's going to come to you the day after graduation. That is just my family's philosophy, or my philosophy being the head of the house. So when he graduates, it's time for him to move on. Figure it out. He graduated on a Friday night at 8 p.m. And the next morning at 7 a.m., I picked him up at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. An awkward and shy young person staring at his shoe tops, one-word answers regarding his flight and how his family's doing. But that began a transformational experience for Noah Dahlman, but also for us as a basketball program. Noah, like Tim, accomplished so much here as players, but they enhanced our college community in so many other ways as citizens. I am pleased to introduce Noah Dahlman as a member of our Hall of Fame.
Greetings, fellow Terriers. Let me first start by saying what an honor and privilege it is to be inducted to the Wofford Athletic Hall of Fame. It's with a heavy heart that I personally can't be there today to accept this honor. Currently, I'm in Pea, Kosovo, still pursuing my passion and following my dreams abroad. I remember getting the phone call this past July, telling me the news I was to be inducted. I instantly rushed to tell one person. That was my grandfather, John Conlon. For those of you who do not know him or his story, he is the oldest living member of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. When I told him the news, his eyes teared up and a sense of pride filled his heart. And although I'm not able to join you in Spartanburg today, that moment with him was truly priceless.
Having this, what I'd call intergenerational induction ceremony is really pretty powerful on a couple of fronts. I had the good fortune to come here as athletic director my first 5 years here in 1997 as Wofford was moving into the Southern Conference. And there was doubt about whether or not a high-quality liberal arts college could do that. People internally understood that we could because of this foundation. Chad Starks and that group, remember, Wofford moved from NAIA for decades. Difficult move to NCAA Division II. That Citadel win was huge in that it was playing a Division I school as a Division II school. And that bolstered the confidence that this could happen. And thanks to a lot of the people in the room that you've heard from, Mike Ayers, Richard Johnson, Mike Young, and many others, and these student athletes, it not only has happened, but look at this. Look at what has occurred. Billy and Betty Wood, you epitomize the notion of a good person. And these speakers here today, I think, epitomize that. And that tradition has continued because of the foundation laid by you. You are a living expression of the Wofford ethos of doing good in the world while also doing well in one's chosen career or profession.
Cousin David, or at least we're not blood kin, but we call each other cousin. And I'm not sure that's about whom we were speaking, or he was speaking when he described all that. But we are truly thankful for this award, and I've wondered through the years how many others could have won this, because hundreds probably deserve it. But we thank you. But I finally come to the conclusion that the reason we got it, other than Harry sitting back there, we're the two oldest who have not died out. Thank you very much.
Wayne is an Erskine graduate, had a college experience very similar to Wofford. He was a football coach when I first met him. It's over, 35, almost 40 years ago. He was a football coach at Lawrence High and a teacher. He'd been at other high schools as a head football coach and done a great job working with young people. Transitioned into, as an entrepreneur into business during, after the aftermath of Hurricane Hugo in 1989. Migrated to the beach where he helped rebuild the Grand Strand from the effects, the ravages of Hurricane Hugo. Gave us two children. Gave us Kenneth, who's in the back here, and also his sister, older sister, Wendy. And Wendy, as you know, is an ESPN anchor. Tell you the kind of values he instills in it. Well, the fact that the company is so successful under Kenneth's leadership, Wayne, as I understand it. But he instills in his children the lessons of sacrifice and doing for others. Never probably more epitomized in our, as David Wood alluded to, our early transition to Division I. We started a women's golf program, and we needed one more golfer. And so Wendy was a reluctant volunteer, but she stepped forward, and even though her game wasn't up to the challenge, Wendy stepped in and filled a very important role for us as we needed that sport for sports sponsorship to qualify for Division I. But
I think going back to my early days, and Coach Ayers and I have a little bit of continuity. I spent a little time in the Marine Corps, and he did as well. And so I think with that background starting me out, and in the Marine Corps when I came along during my time in OCS at Quantico, it was a pretty challenging effort because they were washing out OCS candidates because at that particular time in our nation's history, well, we didn't want to get, the last thing the Marine Corps wanted to do was put you in charge of 46 young men and get people killed. So they washed a lot of people out, and I think I learned a lot during that process about who I was and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to transform my life into being. But really, our family's life changed in 1992 when Brad Stilley, I brought Wendy up for a Wofford Scholars Day. She'd missed the original time. I brought Wendy up. She didn't really want to come because it was on a Saturday, but that was my choice to make, not hers. And so we brought her up, and when I picked her up on Sunday, she was sort of scheduled to go to Furman, and that's a bad, bad word, I know. But we figured out she was way too smart to go to Furman. And but he had recruited her, and she got in the car and said, Wofford is where I want to go. This is where I want to make my home for the next 4 years. And little did I know that it would change our entire family's life in ways that's just unimaginable. And I think it's the emotion that you heard up here this morning, you can't manufacture You can't fake that, okay? That is real. That comes with effort and intensity and unity. All those things that are free. All the best things in life are free, and this school embodies all of that. I will continue to spread the message about Wofford because I'm a believer, and I think this is a special, special place. And for you young guys that were honored here today, you had a great opportunity, but you gave something to this institution, and obviously this institution gave something back to you. And that's what it ought to be from now in your careers right on down the line. And I appreciate it very much, and I've enjoyed my time here. We're going to continue to support Wofford in any way we can. Thank you.